Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of the Blacklist Redemption. Such a good episode, such a good finale, so much to talk about, so I'll just work my way throughout the episode. Obviously, the first thing that the team has to do, everyone working with Howard, Naz, as well as Tom, has to work to get, inside of Halcyon, and the way they do that is because basically there's a board meeting being held to basically decide who's in the right, Scotty or Howard. And while they're all discussing this, I love the fact is that when Howard comes in, he's like, "Oh, hey, Bob, Bill, Jane," obviously not the names he used, but the fact of the matter is just talking to everyone. It's like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you. I know, it's so good to see you too," acting like nothing's wrong. And it's just like, now it turns into a situation of like, who's right, who's lying, who's telling the truth. It's Scotty versus Howard. And so basically, obviously, Scotty's already got at least one of the board members on her side just because she's like, the fact this is to help you in your custody case or whatever. The fact of the matter is everyone else is just kind of like, Howard, you kind of faked your death. And he brings up some evidence like, hey, that's not the case. The fact is, the wheels on my plane were the stuff on my plane was tampered with. I got evidence. There's reports and stuff of it. Obviously, a further investigation needs to be held. But I love the fact is that you have like Howard says something like some smart ass remark being like, no, the fact of the matter is, brains before beauty. So he's like, okay, so I guess that means you go first, Scotty. And I was like, that's such a little tiny jab. That's something I appreciate. Like Terry O'Quinn, when I look at him, the first thing that comes to my mind obviously is Locke from Lost. Now, kind of similar to Howard, the fact is they're kind of considered a little crazy because of what they believe in and everything. But obviously Locke has his charming moments, but it seems like you really get to see it in this show, just how like quietly charming Howard is, and just like the fact that he made that little jab like that, I just thought that was good. I don't know why. I really enjoyed that. Also love the fact is that the team they brought with them is the team Naz ended up getting for her where she got her drugs from and everything, and it's like they offer them like a crap ton of diamonds. Well, they weren't diamonds. There's something that's like actually even rarer than diamonds. It's like, there's a crap ton of money. Like these basically calculate to a crap ton of money. And like, all right, so basically, what do you want us to do? And Tom's like, yeah, something that will basically get you killed. And then you have Howard turning and looking at him almost like, why the hell did you tell them that? Now they're going to be reluctant to take the job. Just no words, just slightly turns his head and looks at Tom, and they hold that. It was just, like I said, little small moments like that. When they don't even try, I don't know if they try to be funny, but it's these little moments that, it's something that works beautifully in the Blacklist as well as this show too. It's just these little moments that just shine the most, in my opinion. But now it's just turned into a situation of like, okay, who's telling the truth? He's lying. And then things start stacking against Scotty. Because like the best example character is Dumont. Dumont is literally the audience. It's like, who do you believe? Dumont's like, I don't know. Because the fact is Scotty's lied about certain things. Like for one, the fact is that she held Whitehall. No, she didn't tell anyone. She didn't even tell Kat that, because even Dumont was like, okay, tell me, did she tell you about Whitehall, like her having him captured? If she confided in someone, that's fine and dandy. But if she didn't, that means she's keeping secrets from you. You are literally the person she trusts the most, and she didn't tell you. Granted, this might have been because of the whole finding out about her and what's his name? I keep forgetting. Is it Travis or Trevor? Whatever the case may be, it might have been that kind of played a part in that. Wait, I'll say that for later, because I'm about to go in. Like I'll obviously go more into it later on. But it's just like, everyone's just kind of just like trying to decide. It's like, obviously they go in there without, using tranks or whatever. I mean, like Tom and the team, later on regretting it. It's like, okay, we should have brought guns, especially when Solomon shows up and kills two of the dudes. And even Tom admits later on, it's like, it doesn't matter what the circumstances is, Solomon is still enjoying this too much. I mean, because throughout it all, he does wholeheartedly believe Scotty and everything. But then Whitehall brings up the fact is like, nope, Scotty's the one that held me captive and everything, telling the board members this and everything. So now everyone's perspective is shifting, because the fact is Tom doesn't want things to play out this way. That's still his mom and everything. He wants to believe her and everything. It's like, even at one point, like, if you think that you're in the wrong, if you're being like framed or whatever, turn yourself in, and then you can, like, all the truth can come out. But she's like, no. I'm guessing it's because she feels like if that's the case, then someone like, with his resources, in her words, like everything Howard's done, that basically he would be able to manipulate the situation and make it so that she's super guilty or something like that. I mean, it was very interesting, because when we ended up, like, obviously Whitehall was like, no, he ran away from them and went back to their side. I was like, that's kind of interesting. I didn't think much of it at the time, but obviously, I mean, let's skip to it. I keep beating around the bush. The fact of the matter is, through it all, Howard was the bad guy. I did not see that coming, dude. I kept wondering, because I was so sure, it's like, no, they're both wrong. There's something else going on here. Because the opening of it has Kat being stabbed. I'm like, no, Kat's going to come, report the fact is that they're both wrong. There's someone else involved. Travis or Trevor or whatever the hell his name is, he was a part of all of this. I knew it. I knew you couldn't trust that bastard. I just didn't like the fact is he was asking too many questions. I did not trust him. I got to a point I wasn't kind of trusting Kat, but it seems like Kat was just kind of a pawn in all of this too. That he was meant to get close to Scotty, then he got close to Kat because it's like a lot easier to get closer to Kat. Mainly because she has access to a lot of the stuff that Scotty does, like all the bank accounts and stuff like that. That's why like a lot of the stuff that looks like it was transitions made by Scotty, which because Kat's the one who usually does stuff like that, and she's like, I didn't make any of these transactions, but then she pieced it together like these transactions all happened at times she was with Travis, Daniel, whatever dude's name is, and it's like, dude, that like she was not lying, because the fact that she shows up at the facility and it's like there's a working Whitehall's project, it's working, it's right there in front of her, it's a prototype of it, and it's like the guys running, it's like, nah, you've been here before. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like, yeah, you've been here before, you signed all this stuff up. She's like, at that point I was like, don't tell me Kat, like it's like, did Kat come here disguised as her or something like that? I wasn't sure. I was like, at the time I was like, what does that mean? Because it's like, no, the look on her face, like she wouldn't be faking it for this long. So it's like someone is playing you guys hard. It's like someone's playing you and Howard against each other. It's like, no, Howard planned all this, pretending to be crazy and everything. This has always been him from the beginning, drawing their own son. Even she pointed out, she's like, the fact of the matter is, you should be on my side, Tom, because your dad did something cruel. He used you to get close to me. Like, doesn't that kind of show you something? And it's like, in retrospect, it's like, that shows you, because he knew, like, I mean, that's probably why he was most reluctant about Scotty knowing the truth. But then it's like, what was Reddington so afraid of Scotty knowing? Is it just because he already knows Scotty by reputation? And it's like the fact that, I don't know. Or maybe Reddington knows a lot more about the situation than he lets on. It's like, what the hell does Reddington know that he was like, because I brought it up before. It's like, you know, you had Howard being like, don't tell your mom who you really are. But first, before that, it was Reddington be like multiple times. He said it like 2 or 3 times. Don't tell Scotty who you really are. Don't tell her that you're her son. And it's just like, I'm very interested to see what happens from here, because it's like, for Scotty, not only was she betrayed by everyone, especially Tom, she won't be able to forgive Tom after this. I mean, even no matter what the circumstances is, there will always probably be a little of her that doubts Tom, just because it's like, even if that's her own son, the fact is you chose your dad over me. You didn't believe me when the time came. But the fact of the matter is, like, I mean, initially it was like he had a gun pointed at her and Solomon, but he let him go, which we do see Solomon making his exit. Even with that, like, prototype in front of him, he's like, nah, he's telling Naz, like, you bet on the wrong course. Scotty's good. Like, the fact is, like, another thing Scotty was saying to Tom was like, hey, I didn't know you were my son. You saw how much I cared about my son around you without even knowing that. And so you know how deeply I love my son, how deeply I love you. So it's like, you got to believe me, which Tom just couldn't, just because everything was stacked against her. Howard played the victim card well. I mean, bravo to him. Like, Terry... Okay, to him, the writers of the show, such a fantastic job. I was so certain. There was parts I was like, maybe she's like, I was like, no. They're being played against each other. It's like, no, he played everyone. Tom, Naz, like, I mean, those are the 2 people who believed in him the most, dude. And it's like, to find out that Scotty was innocent this entire time, like, that is just mind blowing. So the question is, where does this go from here? I mean, for one, you had Kat. Man, like, her getting bloodied up at the beginning, we didn't even see the real extent of it. Not only did Home Dude stab her kind of deeper and deeper into the side, he also stabbed her in the back with the ice pick. Because Scotty made a remark earlier in the episode, it's like, oh yeah, the fact is, like, he's like, oh, we can talk about this. She's like, no, if we talked, I'd have to pick up that ice pick and stab you with it. So I guess they were literally foreshadowing that. Luckily, Kat's no pushover. Bashed his head in repeatedly with, like, I think it was like candlestick or something. It was like, man, but she was lucky, like, she was able to get enough strength to give the flash drive to Tom, and it's like, it was him, and it's like, dude, especially after he had that heartwarming moment with Howard, like, oh, you're gonna come to Agnes's birthday party and everything. She's turning 1, and it's like, dude, and he's like, yeah, the fact is, I want you to be here with me, son. So it's like, the question is it? I mean, but then you start thinking even more. It's like, oh, dude, I don't know what to believe. Like, now it's all pointing towards Howard. What if it's actually even more so the fact is that it isn't necessarily, no, because if it was Howard, like, because I'm trying to almost give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, just literally everything was stacked against Scotty. Now everything's kind of stacking it against Howard. I don't know. Like, obviously you have Solomon leaving. He's on the run. Nez promising, it's like, yo, I'll find you. And he's like, yeah, I'm hoping on that. Then you have Scotty behind bars. Dude, this episode is so crazy. I can't get my thoughts straight because there's so much. It was so good. You even had this beautiful moment where it's like those dudes who sell Nez drugs are like, oh yeah, okay, so obviously give payment to the families of those 2 guys that died. Also, you're never going to sell drugs to Nez again. He's like, oh well, the fact of the matter is, hey, business is business. Like, oh yo, she's like a daughter to Howard, which makes her like a sister to me. So once again, you see what I can do with allies, like how good I am to allies. You don't want to kind of cross me and be on my bad side. It's like, yeah, kind of entering Big Brother mode. Well, not Big Brother mode, but Brother mode in general. There are only 2 people who wholeheartedly had Scotty's back this entire time. That was Kat. She never really wavered. I mean, obviously she wavered, but she never gave in. Solomon didn't. Even when evidence was stacking against him, it's like, nah, I believe you, Scotty. And it's like, dude, everyone's going to feel bad about it. Even Tom. It's like, because Tom doesn't like Solomon. It's like, Solomon's a douchebag. When the time came, he was fighting on her side, sure, but he didn't really care if he was really on the right side. I mean, to be fair, I think he did. I think he cared because he does care about Scotty, so I think on some level, like, he wasn't just doing that just for shits and giggles. He did wholeheartedly believe Scotty, and he was on her side and everything. So, because to me, this all puts everything in more perspective. That's why Whitehall said something like, "Oh, the reason why Scotty had me locked up and everything." I was like, but she didn't really have you locked. I mean, she did. I was like, is he just saying that from the perspective of like the moment like they rescued her? He ended up, in a cell, like after like Tom and Howard had rescued him, and like she immediately put him in a cell. But the fact is, when he was talking to her and everything, he made it seem like he was okay with them. He's like, I don't know. And now it puts all in more perspective. Even when Howard and Whitehall, quote unquote, met for the first time, they locked eyes. And now in retrospect, it's like you almost see Whitehall kind of have a confused look on his face. It's like, oh my God. Because he's like, oh wait, what's going on here? And he just went along with Howard's plan. Like, Howard probably never explained to him. It was probably like a last minute decision because he couldn't go to Whitehall that entire time because it's like, because if he did, probably would have thrown up suspicions. He was supposed to be dead, but now that, he was already making moves to come back. Like, everything's in his favor because not only does he have Whitehall, he has Halcyon back under his control, and the fact of the matter is we have no idea. So that also means, too, that whole thing about, her not being the real Scotty is total BS, too, man. It's just like, dude, you feel so bad for doubting her. You know it's got to be bad for Tom. Because Tom was willing to put this all behind. He's like, hey, I got to go back to home to my family. They're waiting for me. And it's like, now this bomb drops, dude. It's like, dude, I'm super excited to see. Like, I hope this show gets renewed for a second season because it's too good not to get one. Especially with this bombshell of, like, a season finale of just, like, crap that's happening. So, what is Howard's ultimate goal now that he has Whitehall's project and everything? Like, what is he going to do with it? Like, obviously, the fact of the matter is, like, there was a whole conversation between Scotty and Whitehall being like, the fact of the matter is Whitehall's like, it could be used for all these good stuff, all this and that. It's like, why do certain people like you yourself look at it in such a bad light? And then Scotty's like, well, the fact of the matter is there's people who have to live in the shadows that can make sure that people are okay, that people can live in the light. They're basically like, hey, we sit back and do the dirty work so that other people don't have to, that everyone can live their everyday lives. It's kind of what she's saying, like her and Halcyon kind of does. So now, I don't know. Because there was even that report basically saying, like, all these reports are saying, like, all the money's coming from Scotty's bank accounts and stuff. Like, it's like, dude, he went above and beyond doing, and it's like, how long has he been planning this? How long has this been in the works? Because obviously there was that 6-month period, like where, well, I mean, obviously there's a period before his plane crash that she ended up questioning him about it, but he was like, no, I went to her first about it. Then, like I said, you can never tell who's on whose side, so Such a good finale. Oh, dude, it's just like I said. I hope this is getting renewed for a second season. Do note that next week we do have the Blacklist returning. I couldn't stop myself. I had to see the preview. Normally, I'm kind of looking away from the previews and everything. Well, obviously, on the last episode of the Blacklist. So obviously, I won't bring up what's happened in the previews in case you don't want to know. But it's like, oh God, yes, I'm super excited. It is going to be a 2-hour event starting at 9 Eastern Standard Time. So obviously, for your specific time zone, put that in. Like I said, 2-hour event. So I'm super excited about it. I'm very interested to also see will there be any correlations. And obviously, there wasn't much crossover between this and the Blacklist. Obviously, you had appearances from people like Cooper and Liz. That's the only like crossovers that happened. Storyline wise, obviously the first episode correlated with like it picks up kind of roughly around the time, like probably like around the same time, Reddington got poisoned, so that's the only correlation. So I'm curious what anything in this show. It seems like they are trying to there's certain things here and there, some characters might cross over, but overall they're two very separate shows, so there probably won't be much of like, oh, what went down in the Blacklist Redemption is going to have an effect. I guess that way is so that people who might be fine with just watching one won't feel obligated they have to watch the other one. I'm sure there might be some references, some winks and nudges, maybe even some characters from the Blacklist Redemption popping up over there. Like I said, Solomon's on the run now. I mean, we're not on the run, but he's kind of gone. So it's like, who's to say he won't pop up in something on the Blacklist? Or even Tom, too. Obviously, Agnes and Liz. So only thing I can say, dude, just the only thing I have left to say is like, poor Scotty, just getting manipulated like this, dude, and getting her own son turned against her, the weapon she didn't even see coming. And even when she saw it coming, it's just, this also begs the question too, like all the people who are quote unquote loyal to Howard, were they being manipulated by him? Oh, he fooled us too. Or are there people within Halcyon who really are loyal to him? That the fact is they knew this entire time what he was up to. Because obviously you had all those scientists along with Whitehall being like, oh yeah, we knew all this. So it's like Whitehall made that spin about like everything, like, oh, the good we can do. So is it 100% about the good? The fact is he's kind of got that smile at the end of the episode that makes me think no, because the project's kind of moving along smoothly. So very interested to see like if a second season came up, what would happen? Like Tom's got to like kind of do a repeat of what he's done, obviously try to prove his mom's innocence while at the same time trying to take his dad down, probably like do it to his dad what his dad had him do to his mom, pretend to like be on his side and everything while slowly turning against him. Obviously he's get probably Naz and Dumont on his side, probably hide Kat and everything because obviously Dan is dead, so I'm sure that's going to raise some red flags about her, but also going to have to track down Solomon, which obviously he'll probably be willing to help Scotty, but obviously probably have his reservations about like, oh, the fact is, I told you not to trust Howard, but you did it. You were idiots. Who was right? I was right. Scotty was right, and I was right. More importantly, I was right. I mean, not necessarily saying that Solomon would talk like that, which personality-wise, you kind of think he would, just so. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.